Welcome back, Castle Dwellers, to the Keys to the Castle. Today we're tackling a hot topic with major real estate implications. Joining me are the usual suspects, real estate attorney Jason Kleiger and mortgage pro Jason Marcus. Buckle up, because we're diving into recent civil fraud case against former President Donald Trump.
Unlocking doors to your dream home. Keys to the Castle takes you on a real estate journey like never before. Welcome to the podcast where every key opens a door to possibilities.
This episode is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified professional for specific guidance. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Yes. I've waited so long. Thank you, Bisendra.
So low for what?
Just this.
So, former President Trump has been in the news a lot lately, and we're not going to get too political here because
We're literally talking about politics.
But we're going to speak specifically about the civil fraud case because it overlaps our industry and our respective industries within real estate. So, I want to clarify a lot of information for the consumers listening that may be concerned about, he had a property and they saying that he overvalued it and defrauded the lending institution that he borrowed the money from. And I just want us to clarify for everyone that it's not how the process works. We're not here to discuss the trial itself. We're not here to discuss the outcome, the individuals at play, none of it, just the overall processes. Let's break it down. First, just a quick recap. New York Attorney General Letitia James sued the Trump Organization for civil fraud, alleging they inflated asset values to obtain favorable loans and insurance rates. That's all we're going to talk about. I have other notes, but we're not going to get into that. So let's go over the process. This is basically just like any other real estate process. You have someone that owns a property. They're going to sell the property. Okay. Or even in the case of a refinance, right? It's the same thing. So you contact the lending institution of your choice. You say, hey, I have this property. I want to buy it or I want to refinance it. Same process. So Mr. Marcus, walk us through the process. I have my house. I want to refi. I call you up. I say, Mr. Marcus, I want to refi. I fill out an application with you first, correct?
Correct.
And then there is a third party involved.
Of course.
Called an assessor or an appraiser.
Yeah, the appraiser telling you what the value is.
And that person is not party to anything other than determining the true value of the real property.
Correct.
Okay, so when that appraiser or assessor comes back, do I get a copy of the appraisal report or does the lending institution get the appraisal report?
Both.
Right, because me as the borrower, I paid for it.
Yeah, and we're actually legally have to give you a copy of that appraisal.
Okay, fantastic. So then what happens? Let's just, in the case of a refi, everybody thinks that their house is worth $5 million. I call you up. I say, Mr. Marcus, I want to refi my house. It's worth $5 million. How much money can you lend me?
I then go into the guidelines set forth by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the rules and regulations governing those bodies on what somebody can extract from their house based on a third-party assessment, in this case, the appraiser, and very specific, straightforward residential rules. What we're talking about right here, and really the root of what we have problematically, is commercial is the Wild West. And why this even exists is the fact that for some reason, there aren't the same sort of rules and regulations to govern commercial as there is to govern residential. If it does, Mr. Trump's sitting in his house right now, like without a care in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is these rules don't exist. They can sit there and manipulate, which leads to obviously this type of litigation, which leads to criminal act, which leads to the predicament that he's found himself in.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Kleiger, any thoughts?
Well, coming from my CPA background, but anyway, the issue here is that you can't have it both ways. You can't say, hey, my property in Florida is worth $1.2 billion. And then have a bank look at that and say, you know what? We're going to lend based on your assessment that it is $1.2 billion. Because you know what? You had a huge CPA firm in New York City say, you know what? Yes, it is $1.2 billion. However, at the same time, you're saying, oh, well, it's only worth about 15 million, okay, to the IRS. You
Mhm.
can't have it both ways.
Cake and eat it too. Can't do it.
Exactly. Okay. So if you want to have it where you feel like your property is $1.2 billion and you want to take out a loan based on that, but then you say, hey, it's only worth 12, 15, even 20, $100 million. To report that to the IRS is just asinine. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to get into the politics of it and everything like that. But at the same time, you have to think of it as, overinflating on one end so that you get that money, you get that refi, you get that, charge of money that you need. And on the other end, you get that loss. Okay. When you get that loss and you have that money, it doesn't work out. And that's where I believe I'm not, like I said, I'm not going
Yeah.
to call it a jig. I'm not going to call
Yeah.
it, but at that time, it doesn't add up.
But let's delve into the commercial real estate industry, and this is where I'm starting to get heated up and annoyed about what's going on with this stuff. So you guys out there, you're listening, and it's just like, okay, they say the value of this is X. The banks lent against them, like they're on the hook, fine. And it's like, who cares if he's paying his monthly dues to the bank and everything's all rosy? Well, let's just fast forward real quick. And if you guys are paying any attention out there on what's going on in the commercial real estate space, like especially with what happened to COVID, what happened? Everybody started to work remotely. People weren't tied to the city. Major spaces not being occupied by companies anymore. So guess what's going on? These buildings owe against them more than what they are now actually valued at. And guess what? Who owns these things? Is it people? No, it's corporations. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to bankrupt those corporations. They're going to walk away scot-free because guess what? If the building your building is worth $5 million and you owe $10 million and there's no negative repercussions from walking away from it, guess what these guys are all going to do? All right, take the building back, bank. Nice talking to you. And these guys are going to start to literally crumble, which behind the scenes, this is the biggest fear in the banking world, on the commercial banking world side, that smart rich people are going to walk away from undervalued properties that they owe large sums of money against because this unregulated method of lending money occurred. So forget about even what's going on with Trump or any of these other people in regards to the legal ramifications. Us as humans that are dealing with the economy itself should be concerned with what's going on in the commercial real estate space.
Mhm.
And I look back at 2007, 2008, and I just see,
Oh, the good old days.
oh yeah, and I just see like Lehman Brothers.
Oh.
And these other properties that people default on, and next thing you know, who does it fall on? It falls on the consumer. It falls on Jane Q consumer, Joe Q consumer. And you think, oh, well, these are these giant buildings, these are these moguls that run these buildings, and they're just ruining the banks, and the banks are no, the banks have to make their money somehow. Okay, maybe they're our friend, maybe they're not. Okay, and we're talking big banks, like the example Lehman Brothers. And what happens is you have a situation where you have too many of these moguls, let's say, that draw up way too much fund and way too many funds, excuse me. And next thing you know, they're all saying, hey, we're bankrupt, we don't have money. And this is what happens. And exactly the same thing that happened in 2007, 2008 will happen if way too many people or too many corporations find this to happen. And My fear, and I'm sure a lot of other people's, is that this will happen again. Right now, we're at a certain interest rate. We don't need it to go any higher.
Well, from a real estate perspective, the inflated values are particularly concerning, right? Lenders rely on accurate information, right? Because they work on a calculated risk. I'm just reading off my notes. So they use that calculated risk and determine loan amounts.
Of course.
If the asset value is artificially inflated,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a bad recipe altogether. And it's, like you said, reminiscent of early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my perspective, that when we're not strangers to what I'm about to say, when you do and conduct business ethically, you don't have this problem because there's a lot of checks and balances in place. The lending institution is just one barrier that you have to cross where they don't want to lose money, right? They don't want to lose money. So they're going to make sure that they're going to recoup all of their money, not just a portion of it. They want all their money back and then some, which is the interest, of course, because there's a cost to lending and borrowing money. From a residential perspective, I know we're talking a lot of commercial, but it doesn't matter. Residential or commercial, there's an agent involved. The agent has to do their own due diligence before presenting the property, whether on the sale side or the purchase side. Okay. We all have a certain responsibility. So when I pass the docs off to either Mr. Marcus or Mr. Kleiger, you know, okay, certain things were checked, but you will still double check and triple check because it starts here, goes to you, and then from you, it goes to the attorney, but the bank has their own attorney. So there's a lot of checks and balances and a lot of transparency to be had. So I don't want anyone to feel, oh, with all this stuff, if they're going after him, they're going to come after me. And how do I know that I'm not going to get duped and I'm going to get sued and I'm going to this and I'm going to that? No, it's not going to happen. So everyone that's a little skittish, there's no need to be. There's a lot of checks and balances when you do work with professionals who function ethically consistently. So there's no need for anyone to be, oh my God.
And to kind of buttress off of Bisendra's point is, doom and gloom is one thing. It's another thing if you be truthful and go with a lender that you trust. You will see that we don't have to worry about those nonsense things. These are giant corporations that they're not looking for your $700,000 deal. They're not coming after your FHA mortgage. They're not coming after your 20% down. Okay, this is we were talking about big commercial deals, and as long as you trust your lender, you are honest with your lender, you provide your lender with everything, your lender will do everything possible to get you the best loan. And I know Mr. Marcus for a long time. And again, he is someone that as long as you give everything you can truthfully and honestly, there's no problem there.
And again, we're talking about two different sides of a coin. And 2008, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I was all fired up, fist pumping about the way regulations stepped into the mortgage field to eliminate the people that we're not talking about right here, where it is those predatory lenders that came after people, put them into terrible stated income, stated asset loans, like misleading W-2s, misrepresenting jobs and job histories and job titles and job amounts. But again, we're in a situation where they corrected the residential loan side of things, but didn't do anything to regulate the commercial side. Now, as we all know, when it comes down to contributions to campaigns, when it comes down to these backdoor deals that are getting done, it's not getting done by the guy buying a $500,000 house. It's getting done by these huge corporate conglomerates that are basically scratching each other's backs. They kept commercial non-regulated. Now we're starting to get to a point where those same people that took advantage of that situation could literally help crumble our economy by letting there be a disastrous result on the commercial side. So I am not for government intervention into business. That's not what I'm about. But there was a byproduct of that in 2008 with Dodd-Frank that at least made somebody like me ethical, hardworking, clean cut, client, most important people that set structure to getting it so that way I wasn't losing my deals to my uncle is a plumber, but he does mortgages
Mortgage.
part-time. That it's like I'm sitting there asking these people questions. And trust me, guys, you need years to master this trait that of what I do. This isn't something you can do part-time, half-ass. Neither of the gentlemen to my right or left are in professions that could also be a part-time gig. You want to be a phenomenal real estate agent, you got to be all in. Naturally, we know what lawyers have to do to become lawyers. And even that, you still need to master that sector of the business that you're focused on. So perfect example, and we all know this, like my uncle's an attorney. This guy has never practiced real estate attorney in his life, but yet I'm trusting him on the biggest transaction of my life based on a half a semester from 27 years ago in law school. No, thank you. I want a guy who is going to be like Jay, hands-on, doing these transactions in the ditch, knows what he's doing, and specifically is qualified to recommend and obviously help clients through this process because he's done this and been there before. But again, right now, my biggest fear is the lack of regulation and this you scratch my back, I scratch yours between commercial lending institutions and these big corporations could find ourselves in a terrible situation regardless of what happens on the consumer, regular, residential side of things.
Yep.
Yeah, that's some great takeaways. And I think that's the purpose of today's episode is be vigilant, ask your questions, and don't hesitate to seek professional guidance. Okay. And this is more for the other professionals in the industry is remember integrity and transparency are the cornerstones of a healthy real estate market.
Love it.
Right. Because that's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
And like Ms. Marcus said, we're our customer focused. We are not focused on our own pocket, right? We're here about the education and helping others build generational wealth, or else we wouldn't be here.
I mean, even if you think about it, what do we stand to lose? We stand to lose a lot. If we start, doing certain things to kind of skirt the system or, change the numbers here and there, we stand to lose a lot. And all of us do. Why would we do that to ourselves in the future? Why would we do that to our clients? And
it makes zero sense.
It really does.
The amount of time that you went to school, the amount of time you've been practicing, the same thing with Mr. Marcus, 20 plus years in, right? Myself, 20 years in. You think I'm going to give up 20 years of my life because for a few bucks? You got to be off your rocker.
All you have is your name and your license.
That's it.
And your reputation.
And my reputation falls on the backs of my father, who was a phenomenal realtor. Right? There's no way they're gonna be like, oh, well, look what his no, because you know how the community is. So,
and one of the things that like I usually use as an analogy when it comes down to it, it's like I can renovate my kitchen. I can cut a gazillion corners, but inevitably that cabinet door is going to fall off. That tile is going to crack. That stove is going to break. That refrigerator is going to leak. It's like there's always tricks to the trade. There's always ways to skirt things. There's always ways to get around it to make your life easier. And it could be financially easier. It could be anything. Any which way you look at it, you can find ways to make any situation easier on yourself. But we've learned over the course of time, especially in this industry, the recipe is always the same. integrity, working hard. There's no shortcuts. So anytime you're sitting there and we're dissecting a subject where we're looking at people intentionally trying to take shortcuts, we know just based on our experience in our industry and even a cross section from talking to other people in other industries, you start seeing the people that are looking to cut angles at things, to try to do things where things are falling out of the sky. We know the end result 99% of the time is going to end badly. We just know that. And it holds true. There's a karma to it.
It definitely, I agree to that. I mean, there are so many times when, in contracts, you have this thing called a mortgage contingency clause. A lot of times people will not be able to get their mortgage commitment, whether it's their income or their credit, whatever it is, and they're able to get out of the contract. Sometimes you have people who have unscrupulous loan officers who will be like, yeah, I'll give you a commitment. And then next thing you know, they get it to underwriting, and underwriting says, no, we're not going to give you a commitment because look at this. This is horrible. Okay. And, at first you think, oh, my loan officer is great. He gave me a commitment. Look at this. Okay. But then you're locked into that contract because your loan officer you couldn't trust. And what happens? Now you got to explain to the seller, oh, well, I should get out of this contract. And you know what? They're going to say, no. I'm going to keep your down payment. And why does that happen? Because of people you can't trust. And the people here with me, Mr. Marcus, Bisendra, you can trust because they're not going to put you in that situation. And too many times I've seen that happen. And believe it or not, that happens a lot. Okay. Loan officers, sometimes they get a little too rambunctious. They want to give you the commitment. They want to lock you in. They want to do this. They want to do that. But you know what? It only hurts you. And that's why you need to really go with someone who is going to give you not only the best rate, the best service, you need to go with someone that you trust.
So how would you recommend someone, because I see that people do not know what they don't know. And I tell people all the time, ask a family member, friend who's recently been in a real estate transaction, ask them for recommendations on who their lender was, do independent research, right? Interview your lender, interview your agent. I tell people that all the time, at least meet with 3 people and let one of them be me, and then we'll see, right?
Yep.
Same thing with attorneys. Here's the attorneys. This is my preferred lender because we've done countless transactions together, but you may not be a good fit. The same thing I tell seller clients.
Mm-hmm.
We may not be a good fit. Let's meet and let's see.
Yeah.
So people should be interviewing, from my perspective, people should be interviewing and asking for recommendations, doing independent research. What about you? What do you think you can add to that as far as a good tidbit of information for them to how do they check to see?
I think you always need to have a vested interest in it. So just to parlay off what you were just talking about, it's if I get recommended by a realtor, beside the fact that I have ethics and I'm going to do best by the client, like, let's just say for argument's sake, that wouldn't be the case. I have now an extra level involved in this because not only do I need to do what's best in the client's interest to keep them happy, which I'm going to do anyway, but now there's an extra layer in it because now I have a referral partner who referred me, who I have to make sure also is an extra layer to that. So it's like, not only do I have to make sure that the client's a raving fan, I also want to continue to do business with my referral partner. So my point in telling the audience this is there's value in getting the recommendation, because when it comes down to it, you want multiple layers of people inside this transaction that are going to be appeased by the work of somebody like myself or Jay. So, or obviously even Bisendra, like depending on how that referral came. So when push comes to shove, when you have more accountable people and there's more accountability, there's also more that we ourselves on our side are concerned about. So it's like, I'm going to go the extra mile regardless, but I also need to keep my referral partners. There's, even if I lie to myself and say that there's not something to that, there's something to that.
There's absolutely something to that. I'm more worried about that relationship, to be honest. Seriously, if I when you guys send me referrals, I work that referral as if it was my own family member, because in theory it came from a family member. I want to make sure they get the same service that I would come to expect if I sent one of you guys a referral. And I'm never worried. I'm never worried.
Never worried.
No, never. If I send a client to someone, okay, my name is behind that referral.
Right.
And if I send them to the wrong person, okay, let's send, I send them to Joe Q, whomever.
Public.
Okay, Joe Q Public, okay? And all of a sudden, that person bungles it up, okay? I referred that person. That's why I don't like referring people very often, because I need to know that that person's going to take care of my client. And I know that Mr. Marcus and Bisendra would take care of my client. And that's why certain situations, there is no question about it.
So you guys want to open this up for anyone that is looking for a referral or a reference for someone of our caliber, whether it's legal, mortgage, real estate. Open it up. If anyone has a need, we would send them a recommendation depending on where their locale is. It's up to you if you guys want to open it up. I'm definitely open to doing it.
Yeah, if I can help. Like, the way we all work is the money that we make is a byproduct of how we just try to help people. So at the end of the day, if there's somebody that can perform any sort of action for somebody that we can trust, that's somebody that we know is going to be a good fit with that particular referral, I'm always into it. But the inverse also applies. I will never give you guys a referral of somebody in any sector of anything that's not somebody I would use myself. Ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't give referrals for craftsmen.
Because it's dangerous.
I have no idea, because I love craftsmen personally, but the thing is, it's hit or miss. There's so many variables at play that I cannot control, and even they can't control. I'll give them the benefit of it. The Tyler that does my tiles in my master ensuite may not do the same job for you. So people get very distraught. They tell me all the time. They said, but you see all these people regularly. And I said, I do, but I will not put my professional reputation behind an individual that I cannot, fit. I cannot just basically say they're going to do a phenomenal job for you because they did that for me. I mean, professionally, it's a different story.
Exactly. If I know someone that's not going to do 100% of the job that they're going to do, no, sorry, I'm not going to put my name behind that.
And it's usually, unfortunately, like, I've been down this road so many times, and it really hurts, because as we know, there's most of it, like, there's no upside on our side in this thing. Like, there's generally only the downside. And even though I want to get particular friends of mine more business, I started to learn it's almost like giving your political opinion on Facebook. Like, you're just not going to win, guys.
You're not gonna.
Guys, you can stop doing that. You're never going to win. You're not going to change anybody's opinion. Like, just stop doing that. And I kind of thank the world, like, that most people, at least in my network of people on the good old Facebook, have stopped doing that. I just need to get the guys that think Earth is flat to stop doing that. And then after that, I feel like I have the most perfect social network ever created.
No chemtrails.
They were talking about cloud seeding earlier today.
Sorry, if you're into that, we're okay. That's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. Oh, and just my proof to you flat earths, when there's a lunar eclipse, the shadow of the Earth shows that it's round. And every other planet's also round. I'm just saying.
Or just dig a hole and then run.
Okay, I'm stopping right now. So that's all for today, Castle Dwellers. If you have any questions about the Trump case or real estate ethics, don't call us. Don't email us. But don't hesitate to reach out if you need a referral or you have any questions. And remember, keep your keys close and your deals transparent. Thanks, guys.
As we wrap up this real estate adventure, remember, every key we've shared opens a door to your property dreams. Thank you for joining us on Keys to the Castle. If you enjoyed the journey, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. Your feedback means the world to us. Don't forget to follow us on social media for the latest updates. And you can find our contact information in the show description. Until next time, happy house hunting, and thank you for listening.